It was a week. It was before you changed putters too. But what do you remember just about that stretch and kind of that moment before you kind of went on that run? But it was a frustrating week here.
I'm trying to think. I believe at this tournament I was still using a blade putter with kind of like a super stroke type. Is that right? And so Phil, when we first started working together, there were some things in my technique that he wanted to clean up, and so we worked really, really hard on those in the offseason, saw some success early on. I think I won the Bahamas first tournament that we were officially working together. And then I had an okay start to the year. I had a week in Phoenix where I was close to winning. I had missed some putts on the back nine that I needed to hole. And then coming into this week, I think it's more of the residual frustration from the week before. And then you come here to a golf course and greens that are very difficult to putt. And kind of that frustration kind of keeps going. And we went back home. I think I had maybe 2 weeks off. And we just started kind of thinking and doing some research on putting, different putters. And we ended up going with that just regular spider putter and getting rid of the line on the ball. This week in 24, I believe I was still using a blade with the line on the ball. And so going to that mallet where I don't have to line the ball up and it kind of gave me just a better visual for what I wanted to see, really just freed me up, where I don't have to, I was never really a guy that was super good at, I don't know if lining things up is the right word, but for me, less is more typically. And so going to this blade putter just helped me almost do less, to where I always saw the path of the ball, and for some reason the line, I think for a while I tried to use it and it became more of a distraction than anything. And so going to that spider putter just kind of cleared things up for me.
And just real quick, that's interesting. You think that maybe some of your, not that you were that angry, but you were a little frustrated that week, you threw the ball in the crowd. Do you think that was because the week before, carrying over?
I did not throw the ball into the crowd.
Not crowd, sorry, in the trees.
Let's
trees, yeah.
The trees are okay.
That would have been a bigger story.
Yeah, exactly. You've played golf before, though, right? Yeah, it's frustrating.
All right, we'll go to Doug.
Question for Brody, actually. Have you ever thrown the ball into the ground?
Yeah.
Does it, in a kind of a non-major question, but does it matter where you win? Does anything add any significance when it's a place with some history? Referencing here, for example, and maybe some other places.
Yeah, there's an aspect to that for sure. And I think of, growing up as a kid here, the tournaments that I watched on TV, one of the tournaments that meant a lot to me was the Byron Nelson, because I could go out there and I could watch the guys that I watched on the driving range go compete in a PGA Tour event. And I just always dreamed of being able to play there. But I'm not sure if the history means something to me, but a lot of it's just more the memories I have from a kid watching guys that I knew and idolized growing up compete on these courses, and now all of a sudden I'm out here competing. And so being able to win any of these tournaments definitely has some significance to me.
And then, secondly, as much as you go day to day, week to week, is there any part of you that breaks the season down by the, do you ever take stock of where you are through the West Coast, through Augusta, little segments of the season that we kind of look at?
Not really. I think I always kind of go by feel and how I'm feeling about my game, and so it typically is more of a week-to-week thing. I think at the end of each week, kind of assess where I'm at, where my mind's at, how my body's feeling, stuff like that. And so I wouldn't say I break up the season at all. It's more just week by week.
All right, we'll go to Bob.
Thanks. There's obviously been a lot of talk about the future schedule, but this spring there's some changes to the PGA Tour schedule already. And unless you play every week, you might have some decisions to make. I'm just curious if you have, or if not, what will go into deciding how you're going to go about it. Leading into the PGA, and obviously you're defending at Memorial. You got a lot of your home events in that stretch too.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think one of the great things about the PGA Tour is we get spoiled week in, week out here. We play great golf courses. The competition's great. We get treated great at each tournament. And so there's always decisions to be made in terms of tournaments. If I could, I would play every week. It's just not feasible for me. So I think most of the stuff's still up in the air for me. I definitely don't announce any tournaments that I'm committing to unless I got to be 100%, because it would be tough not only on the tournament, but this is not the way that we like to do it. So I would say everything's still kind of up in the air.
Does it make it tough on you when you have a couple of hometown events that you like to play, but they're sandwiched by, some of these bigger signature events?
Yeah, I mean, it's a balance, right? And like Doug asked me the question about tournaments that have historical significance to me, and my 2 local tournaments that I grew up going to have a lot of meaning to me. I love being able to compete in the Byron Nelson, the Colonial I grew up going to as well, and being able to play in my home state's always fun, and I love to be able to do that. But I do have a cadence kind of to my schedule that you've seen over the last few years, and I don't love to play a ton of weeks in a row, especially at the point I'm at now in my career, just because it takes a lot more energy to play week after week out here, just with the stuff that I have to do, not only to prepare to play on the course, but the stuff that I have to do off the course as well. It's a lot more work than it was early in my career. Not that that's a bad thing. That's just, how it is. So, physically and mentally, I just can't play more than a few weeks in a row.
Just a couple more. We'll go right here and then right back.
Scottie, you mentioned, this is one of the best courses you guys play all year. It seems like, by and large, among the players, it's a favorite. What about it, from a player's standpoint, makes it something that you guys really are into? And then how would you feel about this tournament or this event potentially getting a different space on the calendar and maybe getting more of a, prestigious spot in the calendar?
I mean, I don't know about spots on the calendar or anything like that, but as far as the golf course goes, I think it's an interesting golf course because there's not really many hazards. There's not really too much out of bounds that comes into play. Like when you think of some of the other great golf courses like TPC Sawgrass, you got a lot of water that comes into play. And when you look at this golf course and you look at it on paper, it seems kind of easy. And then you start playing it and you're like, hit a ball in the rough on 2. You're like, man, this hole's kind of hard. And then you don't hit the fairway on 3, and you're like, oh, shoot, I don't know how I'm going to hit the ball on the green here. And then the golf course just kind of eats away at you over time. And I think like I said, the grass provides a different set of challenges that we see throughout the rest of the year. And I feel like this golf course can be about as frustrating to play as any on tour, just with the little tricks that it has to it. But overall, if you execute out here, you're going to get rewarded for it.
Go right
Scottie, sorry to go back to the ball throwing thing, but you don't.
So sorry. Yeah, so I remember I hit that guy with the golf ball. You remember that?
You don't hide your frustrations over like a bad break, which is understandable. The level you play at, and when something goes wrong, obviously you get frustrated. Is there anything off the course that enrages you, like a bad break?
Not really.
Nothing.
No, I think competition's kind of its own thing. Stupid questions. No, I was just playing. Scrabble. No, I think when it comes to golf, I've literally spent my entire life trying to become good at this game, and like the hours and time that we spend practicing and preparing to play. I think when you come out here, you expect a lot out of yourself, and so when things don't go as planned, I think that it's healthy to have a level of frustration with that, just because it takes so much work in order to get out here, and especially when you feel like you're doing something right and doing things the right way and not getting the results, I think it can always be frustrating. But I think that's part of the game of golf, is learning how to manage that in order to execute the next shot.
And then Riviera's a big week for golf course architecture nerds. Do you have any interest in that kind of stuff, the history of golf course architecture?
I have a tremendous amount of interest in the architecture. I think this place is a good case study on certain holes where you don't have to make golf courses overly long if you want to make them difficult. I think that's a whole new thing in the game of golf, that's what modern golf course designers are doing, where they're taking out trees, making things bigger, making things wider, and it doesn't necessarily make them harder just because you make a golf hole longer. I think the 8th hole out here is a really good example of a short hole that's quite difficult, and it gives you a lot of options as well. You can play it up the right, you can play it up the left, and you see guys doing different kinds of things there, and I think that's something that's interesting about a golf course. When you have different options, you have different ways to play the hole, and there's also a good amount of challenge to it.
All right, our last few, we'll go to Doug, and then right here.
It's something else too, but you talked about a cadence of a schedule. What do you look forward to? Like Dallas and Colonial are out. You already talked about them.
Are you really asking me what I look forward to, Doug?
Exactly what I'm looking forward to. What do you look forward to about playing Bay Hill? Is there something about the golf course? Is it just part of the schedule?
I mean, Bay Hill, I like
I don't mean to single out Bay Hill, by the way.
No, well, just for instance, Bay Hill, I mean, I like the challenge of that golf course. Okay. I think with each week out here on tour, you look at Sawgrass, one of the challenges, you have to curve the ball both ways off the tee. You have to learn how to deal with the amount of trouble out there while still shooting pretty low scores, where Bay Hill, if the golf course was under normal conditions for the members, it wouldn't be that overly difficult. But all of a sudden you got rough that's like 6 to 8 inches, and you got
Concrete
greens that are basically dead, and we're trying to play golf on them. I mean, it's really difficult. And I think that's what's great about our schedule is you get a different set of challenges throughout the year. And like you look at this stretch where you get Phoenix, where you're in the desert, it's playing firm and fast, golf ball goes forever, and then you show up the next week at Pebble, and the greens are essentially mush, and you're standing there in the fairway. And last week, if you're in Phoenix, you're 120 yards out, I might be hitting lob wedge if it's a little downwind, just because I need to be able to get the ball to stop. But if it's 120 yards in Pebble and I'm a little bit into the wind, I might be hitting 8 or 7 iron just to get the ball to not rip back a crazy amount. So you get challenged in different ways throughout the course of our schedule, and you got to be prepared for that because you see it such a drastic change like that week in, week out.
And then secondly, when you talk about how hard you work to get good at this game, how do you measure how good you are?
I have no idea, Doug. I have no idea.
Is it scores? Is it trophies? Is it stats? I mean, how do you know you're good?
I don't. I think that's why we keep practicing. You never get to a place where you feel like you got it figured out. And I always like practicing and trying to improve and creating new shots. I think golf is kind of the endless pursuit of trying to figure something out. And I mean, I'm never going to get there, but there's no harm in trying.
Do you ever wonder how far along you are?
No. We're not getting anywhere, are we?
I'm asking kind of dumb questions, but I know I got it. Yeah, I think we're done here, Amanda.
All right, we'll go right here and then close out with Jeff.
Scottie, I was talking to somebody about you recently, and they said, I think one of the underrated things about his success is that he takes ego out of it. Like, never seem bothered when someone hits it farther than you or someone hits a great shot. I wonder if you think that that's an accurate assessment of how you handle yourself on the course?
Gosh, I don't know. I think, like, when I look at other players out here and I play with them, I feel like you can always be learning. Like, you talk about golf being like this kind of endless pursuit of trying to figure this game out. Like I play golf with Jordan a lot at home. I can learn so much just by watching and asking Jordan questions about the way he plays shots, and he does some things that work really well for him that wouldn't work well for me. And then certain ways he approaches things, I just like kind of asking questions and trying to figure things out. Yeah, I mean, I'm not the guy that hits the ball the furthest. I may not be like the flashiest player, but I feel like my mind has always been my greatest tool, and I just try to use that to my advantage. And so when it comes to competing in golf tournaments, I can't control what the other guy I'm playing with is doing. And if, like, let's say I'm tied for the lead going to the final round and I shoot 62 and the guy shoots 61, I can definitely look at a few shots I'd want to have back. But at the end of the day, the tournament's over and you take your hat off, shake hands, say congratulations. And the great thing about golf is oftentimes we just get to show up the next week and start all over and compete again.
There's a discipline in that, and like it's an alpha sport. It's you got to be tough. It feels like a lot of the times, though, you mentioned you hit it shorter when you were a kid, and that's why you had to be a good putter. Do you think that's a product of like that you carried that through from when you were younger?
Like carried what through?
Carried this I don't care if this person hits it 30 yards past me. Like it's irrelevant to what's going on with me. It doesn't seem like that happens a lot with some of the, like when kids are growing up and they all want to hit far, they all want to be great, they all want to be like the baddest dude in town. Like you didn't really have that sort of approach, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think in this game, like there's so much information, there's so much stuff that we can be doing, and there's like if I wanted to be the longest driver out here, like I have irrational self-confidence in myself, like that I can do that type of thing. And it's like you look at other sports. I look at the way I grew up, like playing all different sports, competing with my buddies, and I always had like irrational confidence to where I was going to somehow figure out a way to beat my buddies in whatever it is if we're playing, besides video games. But if we're going to play like tennis, pickleball, ping pong, basketball, like I love competing. I love challenging myself and the people around me, and kind of whatever it is. Like I love competing. I love having fun. But like I said, like when the tournament ends, one thing that I've had a lot of growth in since I was a kid is being able to take my hat off, shake hands, say good job, and then be done with it. You know, I love competing, but also I love the relationships and the friends that I've made playing this game for a long time. Like you look at a guy like Colin last week. You know, I've been competing against Colin since we were like 14 years old. And, you know, he wins a tournament, he announces he's pregnant, and all of a sudden you just have this – it's such a cool moment to see a guy who's played really good golf over the last few years, hasn't quite gotten, you know, the results and the wins, but he's played pretty consistent golf, and then he gets this, you know, announced that he's having a kid, and it's this moment. It's like, wow, you know, I competed as hard as I could, got beat, and it's like, all right, man, that's awesome. Like, you won, congrats. You're having a baby, even bigger congrats. And then, you know, we're here this week, and the prep just starts again.
All right, last one over here with Jeff.
Scottie back here. Just wondered if you could tell us why you think Riviera is such a worthy tournament venue.
Well, I think when you look at the golf course, I think it's a great golf course. I think it challenges us in some different ways. And then I think you have a lot of history here, and it's a golf course that stood the test of time. And you know, the golf course has changed and evolved than when it was first built, and I think it's evolved for the better, and it still challenges us to this day, which is pretty cool. And like I said, green's got a lot of slope. The rough is a whole new challenge for us this week, and yeah, it should be fun.
And then last question, on the heels of it being challenging, 12th hole is played as the toughest hole the last 5 years here. What makes that hole so tough, tee to green?
Well, it typically plays into the wind, unless you're off really early in the morning and the wind's blowing the other way. But typically you're playing that hole into the wind. The green goes like this in most spots. If you land it in the right bunker, it's probably going to plug. If you hit it left of the green, it typically rolls off into the rough. And that's basically if you hit the ball in the fairway, and it's also a really challenging tee shot too. And it's like 500 yards. So there's a few things that make it quite difficult.
Thanks.
Yeah, you got it.
All right, Scottie, thank you for the time. Good luck this week.
Thank you. Appreciate it.